I'm Brian Fraley. I have the privilege of being the executive director of SETI, Contextually Engaged Theological Education Foundation of South Florida. And that's easy to remember if you just think CETESF.org, and there you are. And you can always go online and check us out, and there will be recordings that we edit from this time together that we'll be sharing with folks online and that you can share with others. In a few minutes after our opening prayer, we're going to begin, as we always do, after the opening prayer, with an opening for all of you to introduce yourselves. And so right now, just to kind of prepare that, I'm going to ask that you click on your screen where it says participants. Do you all pretty much know where that is on your screen where it says participants? And you can see right there that nice list of participants. And you'll see that what it does effectively is it kind of alphabetizes, kind of lists people going on down. You'll see some names first, but then for the most part, well, you'll see names going all the way down as they kind of join and so forth. Now, I am hoping that as you look at this, we might be able to see a way for us all to make sure we all introduce ourselves. I'd like, of course, to simplify it so I don't need to call all of you one at a time. And I just want to say, if you look at the screen, do you see a name that says Joe Iannone, and then Donald Combo, and then Patrick Parham, right in that order, and then Stephanie Bennett? Do you see it in that order, y'all? Thumbs up if you do, somebody. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Good. That means that after the opening prayer, all of you can look at that list in participants, and you'll see when your name comes up next, because we've got to do some introductions. We always have to greet each other. Now, I see that we are so fantastically fortunate that we even have, get this, 3 members of the SETI Board of Directors with us this evening. That's really, really exciting. I hope that they'll be able to introduce themselves, of course, but I hope that every single one of you, when your time comes, you can simply say your name, because sometimes you might look at the way my name's spelled and say, that must be Brian for holy. Actually, I pronounce it, believe it or not, Brian Fraley. So when I'll say my name and you'll say your name, we'll get a chance to connect that much more. And then please do go ahead and say your context. Maybe where you live, maybe some kind of an affiliation, maybe some kind of connection, but just a real brief word on a connection, affiliation, place. Something brief so we can kind of locate everybody. Then just a very simple 1-sentence piece about what you're most looking forward to from this evening's conversation. What most excites you about this evening's conversation? There are a lot of things you could be saying there, and I look forward to each one of you saying something unique. It'll all be very, very brief, though, because after we finish the introductions, it'll then be time for Joe, again, to introduce our speaker. And then when Joe speaks, after the introduction of our speaker, we'll move right into our speaker. After that, we will do what we always do in this, and we'll then gather in small groups to be discussing what was shared. And we generally do that in groups of 3. And then I'll be putting you all together in groups of 3 for a really in-depth 20-minute conversation. We've discovered that it's good to go in depth, to get to know each other as you're randomly put together, explore things together, and go deep in what you'll be hearing. So without any further ado, I'd like to simply thank all of you for joining us this evening. The CVN, the SETI Virtual Network, is a critical component of the mission and vision of SETI. How else can we do contextually engaged theological education? How else can we engage with each other if we don't all come together like this and build networks together that reflect the specificity of where we're rooted and the inclusivity that we're all so deeply committed to? With that much said, Let me now turn it over to Joe.
Good evening. I'd like to read this prayer as a way to center us. It goes like this. The old year may die and a new one be born that is bleaker and colder, but it cannot dismay us. We dare it, we scorn it, for love makes us bolder. Love makes me bolder to take myself less seriously, so to take beauty, kindness, mercy more seriously. Bold to recall, under the tyranny of all our applied technology, that we are still in swaddling clothes, still coming into being, that the slow magic of creation is still proceeding. Bold in the stricture of our visual culture, to honor the invisible, repose within mystery, and tend the garden of the inner life. Bold to hold things loosely, to release what constricts the spirit and sours the soul. Bold to leave this room, this house, this earth, more caring and more hospitable than I found it. Grateful for the sublime luck to have touched another soul, and for this to be enough. Love makes me bolder, willing to listen with the ear of the heart, to stand under your gaze, and to be open to change. Love, may my actions bear you witness. Amen.
Amen. Joe, thank you for that opening prayer, and that is so helpful and significant for us. It is truly what brings us together. I do recognize that in spite of my best laid plans, there are, of course, the continuing updates in the participant list. And so it will need to fall back to me to call on you to introduce yourselves. I'll call you in different batches of 5, because that way at least you'll hear less from me and more from each other. I will be going down this and naming those who'll be asking to come on right now to speak. And so let me now invite at this point, if we could hear from Elizabeth Ferraro, and then from Patrick Parham, Stephanie Bennett, Ann Garasco, and then let's hear from Ann Richter. I'll just name those 5, and then I'll name another 5 and so forth. Okay, in that order.
I'm Elisabetta Ferrero, and I've been a colleague of Mary many years ago when we were at St. Thomas University. An incredible colleague I would not have missed today for anything in the world. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Patrick Parham. I am honored to say that I have been asked to join the board of SETI. And although I think I'm too old, nonetheless, I will accept this great honor and act as a placeholder and be on the lookout for younger people to carry this forward. I am a great supporter of SETI. And as I say, I was at St. Thomas for almost 20 years. I'm now associated with the Chapel of the Venerable Bede, which is the Episcopal Chapel at the University of Miami. So that's where I'm hanging out these days. I have an active ministry of spiritual direction, which is really a misnomer. I'm a trained listener, and I was trained very well at St. Thomas University. I'm also a member of spiritual directors in Europe, who will be holding their annual gathering in April in Rome. And we're all afraid that because it's a Jubilee year, 20 to 30 million other people are going to Italy. So I hope to get there a little earlier and back before the rush in this Jubilee year. And I'm here to learn more about what is a Jubilee year. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. I'm happy to be here. I'm Stephanie Bennett. I am a colleague of Brian Fraley's at Palm Beach Atlantic University, and I've been there for 20 years teaching undergrads. I teach at the intersection of faith, communication, and culture. And I am here tonight because I always want to be connected to people who value community as much as I do in the building of it. So thank you for receiving me. I look forward to hearing from you.
Hi, I'm Ann Garosco. I'm a Episcopal priest. I'm a graduate of the South Florida Center for Theological Studies, or I forget if that's exactly the name. Anyway, and I'm just happy to be here. Mary Carter Waren was one of my professors when I was studying at seminary, and learned a whole lot from her and just really admire her, and look forward to hearing her tonight and being with all of you. Thank you.
Unmute, please, Ann. Unmute, please, Ann. Unmute.
Thank you. Okay, Ann Richter from Clearwater, Florida. And I'm delighted to be here. Mary Carter Waren has guided our Pax Christi group for years with her wisdom and insights and helping us to move on and how we need to relate to the current issues that were going on in justice and peace. For myself, I have a rather checkered past. I was a nurse midwife. I worked in Africa and Asia for about 10 years and worked with the state of Florida. And so it's wonderful bringing this all together and seeing Mary again and hearing as we launch into this Jubilee year. Thanks.
Thank you, all of you. And now let's hear from Barbara Cotter, from Carmen Gilbert, from Don Fleury, and from Donald Combo and Hobbit Forrest, in that order, please.
Hi, I'm Barbara Cotter. I'm from Alexandria, Virginia. Just lost my voice, I'm sorry. I've known Joe since 1972. That's longer than all of you, I'm sure. And I met Mary when she was at the university, when I drift down there to see Joe and Mercedes. So I've wanted to support this any way I can, this group, because I think it's fabulous. And I'm interested in the Jubilee Year too. I've heard of it before, but I haven't really taken it to heart. So thank you very much.
Carmen.
Hi, I'm Carmen Gilbert. I was invited by Neri Cummings. I'm so happy to be here. I've heard about the Jubilee Year, but I've never explored more or participated, so I'm very happy to do that. I know Mary Carter Waren. She was one of my professors at St. Thomas University, and I love her dearly. She's just so amazing, and I've never forgotten all the things she taught me, as well as Mercedes Iannone. Amazing women. I'm so blessed to have known them. So I'm glad to be with you, and I just look forward to hearing more. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dawn Fleury. I'm not going to put my face on. I've had some plastic surgery this week for some of those Mohs things, and it's not very good. But I'm really glad to be here. Some of my very good friends are here tonight, and I'm looking forward. This has been a difficult few days politically in the last few days, and I'm really looking forward to centering myself with all that Mary has to share. Thank you.
Donald Combo. I have to apologize. I don't know what's going on with my camera, but I'm here. I am humbled to be around because two of my fabulous professors are here, Mary and Brian, and many more. So it's going to be a fascinating evening. I am here up in Indianapolis as one of the chaplains in our hospital here in Franciscan Health. I was also a student of Mary and Brian. 25 years ago, I was in Rome for the Jubilee. I was awfully surprised it's 25 years. So I'm looking forward to something new about the Jubilee this year. And I'm so humbled that Mary is the one opening that door for us. So I think it's really an honor to be around. Thank you.
I think I'm next, but I'm not 100% sure. I couldn't remember the order. Hi, everyone. I'm Hobbit Forrest, and it's delightful to be here tonight. I'm excited to hear Mary speak. I don't get to hear her very often speak in this kind of context. I heard her many times as a student at St. Thomas University, and it was always a call for action and reflection and action. And you know, those are skills that have served me well as a chaplain. And she's always close to my heart. I think I learned heart from her. Anyway, it's fun to be here tonight. I came through the route of South Florida Theological Studies, and we merged into St. Thomas, and I ended up getting my degree, my Master of Divinity degree from St. Thomas. And it was such a pleasurable journey. The outcome's nice, but I really enjoyed the journey, and Mary was an integral part of my journey. Thanks for putting this together, and thanks for being here tonight, Mary.
And now thank you very much, Hobbit. Now let's hear from Ian Robertson, from Jane Spanik, from Karen Reed, and from Katie Carroll and Marlene Lang.
Hi, good evening. My name's Ian Robertson. I'm here in Chicago. I teach at DePaul Prep. Actually, Marlene, Marlene and I talked together last semester, which was really great, and good to see you again. In terms of Jubilee, I think one of the things I'm really excited about the Jubilee is that over the last year or so, I've been part of a group that has been advocating for those organizing the Jubilee to recognize the place of deaf people in the church and as part of the Jubilee. And this year, for the first time in the Jubilee, there will be dedicated days for people who are deaf. So I'm really kind of happy, excited, and it's been a long time that we've been advocating for it, but it's come to fruition. So anything connected with the Jubilee for me is certainly heartwarming, and so thanks.
Jane?
Good evening, everyone. It's so wonderful to see so many familiar faces and hear so many voices. Brian, Ionons, Ian, Mary. Oh my goodness. Teaching and world religions. I was a student of Mary and Brian a few years ago. Mary was my professor, and Brian also helped with my dissertation. I'm using that term very loosely. He was a pivotal role. Mary introduced me to Dorothy Day, and so did Brian. So similar to Dorothy, once you experience Mary and Dorothy, you never forget them, right? We have a Jubilee of Hope event on Saturday. We're inviting 9 different Catholic schools on campus. I'm really excited about the theme. We're going to bring up Blessed Carlo Acutis, who we know is going to be canonized very soon. And so I'm very grateful to be here. And Mary, I'm excited to hear from you always. Thank you so much.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Karen Reed. Dr. Carter Waren and Dr. Fraley are near and dear to me. I'm a co-pastor, my pastor along with my husband at what is called the Purple Church, is literally purple. Dr. Carter Waren was my dissertation chair and also professor for the Master of Divinity. And I'm just excited to hear this perspective on Jubilee. And so I'm just excited to be here tonight to share with you all. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Catherine Carroll. I go by Katie, and I am a Lutheran clergy and was recently also invited to be on the board, and I'm honored to give that a try. And I serve in a variety of capacities in the Lutheran Church at this point, including preaching regularly, but no longer have a congregation of my own and moving toward retirement. I am here to listen and to learn and to grow. Thank you very much. I live in Miami.
That's mine. Okay. Hi, I'm Marlene Lang. As Ian mentioned, I just arrived where I'm at from Chicago. I live in Philadelphia now. I am working at Chestnut Hill College I'm directing the Institute for Forgiveness and Reconciliation, and I'm assistant professor of religious studies here. I'm a student of Mary's and Brian's both. Mary chaired my dissertation committee and did a lot of encouraging and helping me along the way with that. And I am very excited to hear what she's going to teach us tonight because she's taught me many, many things. So.
Thanks to all 5 of you for introducing yourselves just now. And now we'll go for the last 5 folk, which would be Neri Cummings, Olga Villar, Wilson Choo-Choo, Art Kane, and then we'll hear Joe introduce himself.
Hi, good evening. This is Neri Cummings. I'm Neri Cummings. I'm a snowbird from Long Island and Florida. So I'm glad to be in Florida at the moment. I'm a student. I was a student of Mary Carter Waren, and I see 3 of my professors, Joe Inan and Elizabeth Ferrero. I'm so happy to see you. Haven't seen you in a while, and I'm glad to see some of my friends here. And I'm looking forward to hearing on Jubilee since I'm interested, and happy to hear from Mary, we're friends now. So very happy to see you.
Thank you, Mary. My name is Olga Villar. I am a member of the board. They are patient enough to have me there. Still trying to learn my way around. I am the executive director for something called CEPI. CEPI is the Southeast Pastoral Institute. At the same time, that is the regional office for the bishops for Hispanic ministry. I'm in Miami also. So happy to hear I have somebody else here from Miami connected through this. I am also looking forward to tonight's presentation. I do art, and I think that it's important to have balance when you work in art. And to me right now, in the midst of everything that all the changes and all the things happening in the world and in our country, I think that call for Jubilee helps bring balance and kind of keep our eyes set on hope. And as our young people in the Southeast came up with a title for these years, it's a process that I can talk about some of the time, the process of Libro de la Pascua, which is a book that they come up with to prepare for Easter. And it's called Hope Begins with J. So I think that tonight it's about celebrating that and setting our eyes on him. Our hope begins with J. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Wilson Choo-Choo. Dr. Brian and Dr. Mary were my professors. I'm a graduate at St. Thomas. Dr. Brian was the chair of my dissertation committee. I am a hospice chaplain, and I'm also pastoring as a new church in Miami, a Foursquare church. And I'm also involved in supervising doctoral students at Trinity Bible College in North Dakota. Tonight, I'm looking forward to receive and to hear the wisdom of the Holy Spirit through the word or the theme of Jubilee. Looking forward to that.
Thank you much, Wilson. We're about to hear from Art Kane. I would ask that we would hear from Cynthia Rose after that, and then we'll hear from Joe, who will then introduce himself briefly, and then we'll move to introducing, above all, our next speaker, who I think for many of you might say needs no introduction, but I'm sure Joe will come up with a suitable introduction anyway. So let's hear from you, Art, and then we'll hear from Cynthia Rose, and then we'll hear from Joe, and we'll move forward.
Hi, I'm Art Kane, living in Plantation near Fort Lauderdale, and a long-time professor of philosophy, now retired, obviously, from St. Thomas. Anyway, know well Mary Carter Waren, and look forward to hearing your words. So I leave it to you.
And Cynthia.
I'm just unmuting. Hello, everyone. I'm just trying to get home in this weather.
I'm from St. Thomas University. It was a rough ride home, so you won't be seeing my face. But I'm delighted to be here, and I'm looking forward to hearing this presentation. I like the word Jubilee. Those of us who went through it at in the Institute for Pastoral Ministry know I love this topic dearly, and I'm just looking forward to share with Mary again and to see everybody and to link up with everybody. Hi, Professor Kane. I haven't seen you in a while. God bless.
Show.
Has everyone had an opportunity who's here? Okay. I'm Joe Iannone here in Hollywood Beach. As some of you know, 30 years, Mercedes and I worked at St. Thomas University in theology and ministry. And then in 2021, when there was a change at St. Thomas with Brian, we formed SETI, and SETI continued the doctorate of the master's of the ministry degree, the MDiv at Florida Memorial, and the PhD in practical theology at Palm Beach Atlantic, and of course, other things that SETI is doing under Brian's leadership. Now, as far as Mary, the end of John's gospel says, if all the things we had to write down about Jesus, we fill all the books in the world. So most of you know Mary, so I'm not going to fill all the books in the world. And also you could read on the invitation about Mary. But Mary and I have been great friends for 40 years, colleagues and family to family. You won't meet a woman of faith, one of those valiant women of the scriptures, than Mary Carter Waren, as a person, as a professional, as a mother and aunt. Mary is now, as you know, at Holy Cross Hospital, leading the ministry formation of the charism of the hospital, which is an amazing ministry. But I'll end with one thing that Mary does the best of all those things. What Mary does best is make chocolate chip cookies. That's what she does the best. So with that, here's Mary Carter Waren.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. I don't know, it sort of sounded like a funeral for a minute there, but it's all good. When I'm trying to look at this topic of Jubilee, there's a thousand ways into it. There's a lot being written. We could study the papal bull. That might be symbolic all by itself, just those words. But we could look at it scripturally, what the history of Jubilee is and what it means in terms of biblical terms. But I decided tonight, I'm going to share some slides with you. I decided tonight to try to go with, in the world that we live now, how do we live anchored in hope, and what are some strategies to do that? So I'm going to be more pragmatic about my reflections on the Jubilee. So let me share my screen for a second, and hopefully this will make some sense. Okay, can everybody see the screen?
Yep.
Okay, all right. So this is what was out this is kind of like as was advertised, right? What's a Jubilee year? A Jubilee year, in the way that I'm going to look at it tonight, is a time to reset, is to reset our relationship with God, with each other, and with ourselves. And so I think it can be reset economically, it can be reset politically, it can be reset socially, but it's really a chance to reset our relationship with God and with each other, but also with ourselves. It's a chance to offer mercy and forgiveness in places where perhaps we've been holding on or holding out. It's a year to let go of what's keeping us from being the very best versions of ourselves. The scriptures tell us over and over and over again that we were wonderfully made, that we're made in the image and likeness of God, that we are made good, that we are not broken, we are fundamentally whole. So what keeps us from being so fundamentally whole in the way that we live our lives? It's a year to let go of old habits and old beliefs that no longer move us in the direction of love. When I talk about sin and grace, I say sin is when you turn your back on love. and grace is when you move in the direction of love. It's really very simple there. You don't need a list. That's it right there. And so Pope Francis calls us in this year to be tangible signs of hope for those of our brothers and sisters who experience hardships of any kind. So what I'm going to look at are 5 things that for me, when I reflect on all that Pope Francis said, all that's been written about the Jubilee year, how might I personally, how might we collectively be pilgrims of hope this year? So one way, how might I be a pilgrim of hope this year is by listening deeply to others, not to fix them, but to hear them even when it's hard. And the question I have for myself is, and I invite you as well, is, am I willing to hear fear when it's masked as anger? Or anger when it covers despair? My dad was deaf, and so if you want to talk to a deaf person, you can't yell into the next room. It doesn't work. And if you yell louder, it doesn't change anything. And so my dad always said, never said, listen to me, like cup your ear to hear me. When he wanted to talk, when he wanted somebody to listen to him, he did this. Everybody on the screen, I'm just going to invite you to do this. Put both hands like this. And what this meant is, I'm paying attention to you. Because when I'm doing this, I'm listening to you. I'm not paying attention to the noise or distraction over here. I'm not listening to the noise of distraction over here. I'm also not looking past you. I'm looking at you. That to listen means to deeply listen to others, but not to fix them. As much as I might want to, and trust me, Holy Mother of God, I want to. But there's a physician at the hospital that says almost every day, 2 things can be true at the same time. 2 things can be true at the same time. So it's not that I have to be right and you have to be wrong. We could both be right. We could both be wrong. We could both be trying to figure it out, but the ways that we figure it out are very different ways. Very different ways. So how do we listen deeply to others? One of the privileges I have in my role at Holy Cross is to organize the ethics consults. So it's not so much ethics consults as usually it's family meetings, and it's almost all around end of life issues. And no one wants their mother to die, even when they know it's at the end, even when they know it's hard. No one says, this is great. I just, I really want her. They struggle with it. And so by listening deeply when somebody wants to try one more treatment or one more thing, what are they really asking? What are they really saying? So I think one of the ways I can be a pilgrim of hope in 2025 is really to attempt to listen deeply, to listen beyond the surface, to listen beyond the words, to listen to everything, to listen to the body language, to listen to the despair, to listen to the fear. I now have 5 grandchildren, and I watch my sons and their wives. It's a tough world to raise children in. It's a tough world to figure out how to give them hope and how to give them energy. But when I listen to them, I learned something new. So I wanted to share this story. I'm going to go back to I'm going to stop the share for a second. So my 6-year-old grandson's name is Braden, and Braden is a very organized, very smart, very disciplined kind of kid. And his brother, who's 4, Miles, is much more artistic, much more out of the box kind of thing. So Miles had decided that he wants to be a doctor. And then we went to a Miami Hurricanes football game, and he saw the band come out, and he saw the guys with the big drums, and he said, I want to be a drummer, Grammy. And his very wise older brother, who's 6, said, "You can't be two things. You can only be one thing." And I said, "Oh no, this is the coolest part, Braden. You can be 2 things or 3 things or 8 things or 10 things. You can be a lot of the same. You can be a doctor and a drummer." So he kind of rolled his eyes at me like, whatever. But Miles was very happy that he can be a doctor and a drummer. So the next week at the hospital, every new physician that comes to the Holy Cross meets with me to talk about the ethical and religious directives and what it means to be in a Catholic hospital and all this kind of stuff. So I'm talking to this physician and I said, "Tell me something about you that's not on your resume. Tell me something that's not in your CV." And he said, "Well," and this guy's probably 50-ish and a very accomplished physician. And he said, "Well, to tell you the truth, I I played drums a lot in high school and college, and I just reconfigured the drum set in my back room because I really missed the outlet of playing the drums. I missed that artistic thing." And I said, "You won't believe this." And then I told him the story about Miles. So as soon as I got home, I called my son and said, "Can you put Miles on the phone?" And I think my son gets a little scared when I want to talk directly on the phone to them. What's she going to say next? He puts Miles on the phone and I said, "Miles, guess what? I just met a doctor today and he's a real doctor and a real drummer." And there was silence. He said nothing. So then I didn't know what to do. So I said, "Give the phone to Daddy, Miles." So he gives the phone to my son and I said, "What's going on there?" Because Miles doesn't say anything. He said, "I have no idea what you told him, but he's doing this the whole time because he's so excited that you can be 2 things at the same time." And I think of that when I think of this part of the Jubilee. Just imagine if we could listen more deeply and we could listen to the fullness and we could listen to the frustration that people want to be more than one thing. Even when they don't get it right, even when I think my right is more right than their right, sometimes we all have the same right, but we get to it, or how we get to it, are very different ways. So I think the challenge to really listen deeply to others, but to really hear them even when it's hard. And I don't mean, I'm hearing a lot, even during the election, I heard a lot of kind of, you just need to talk to the people who think different. This is different. I'm not asking you to talk to the people who are different. I'm asking you to listen differently to the people who are different. So that's that first one, is how might I be a pilgrim of hope? By listening deeply. Now I have to get to my next slide. How do I do that here? There we go. How might I be a pilgrim of hope? By being present to myself, being mindful, by being present to each other, to the community, by showing up and by following up, by being persistently present. Pope Francis says in the Bible for the year, to be truly present requires patience. And he talks about the link between hope and patience. So hope is not instant. Hope is not mixed with water or put it in the blender. Hope takes patience. Patience requires finding the time to be present, the time to just show up. Tomatoes don't just show up on the vine. It takes time to bud and then to grow and then to grow and then to ripen. That nature takes time. And so I think to be present by showing up and following up, by being persistently present. I think we're often present, but we're not persistently present. Just never giving up, that persistent widow, that persistence of never giving up, never giving up, never giving up. So I might be a pilgrim of hope this year by being present, persistently present. I might also be a pilgrim of hope this year by being willing and able to learn from those whose experiences in life are different from ours. This is obvious, and yet somehow we seem not to be able to get this right. Different in age, in experience, in race, in sexual orientation, in language, in culture, in economic status, in spiritual practices, in social class, in legal status. And not being willing to teach, but being willing to learn from those whose experiences in life are very, very different from us. Pope Francis talks about showing up as tangible signs of hope, but tangible signs of hope not only to give out. There's a lot of examples in the papal bull actually of paying attention to those, but to really being willing to learn, to be humble enough to say, I don't know anything about what your life is like. I don't know anything about what that must be like. I don't know anything about what you know. One of our core values at Holy Cross has been a commitment to those who are poor. And last year they changed the language of that from commitment to those who are poor to commitment to those experiencing poverty. And initially a lot of people said, yeah, it's just semantics. It doesn't really matter, but it matters a lot because to be poor is an experience. You know, it was great to watch the Weather Channel, to watch the snow in New Orleans, but there's no heat in a lot of homes in New Orleans. And there's no way to get to work when there's 6 inches of snow on the ground in New Orleans. And for most people, if you don't work, you don't get paid. I have a cushy job. If I don't go to work, I still make money. But for most people in the world, if they don't go to work, they don't get paid. So what was beautiful and dramatic on the news affected real people. It was an experience of poverty. So being willing to learn from those whose experiences in life are different than ours means to be able to cross over the lines into other people's lives and humbly be able to hear and learn from them, to hear their experience, their stories. I hope all of you will read Karen Reed's dissertation when it's published as a book, because her dissertation is brilliant. And it's about learning from those whose experiences are different from ours. It's about wailing women. It's about women willing to put themselves on the line and wail and weep for the loss of their children. So when we are willing to pay attention and listen and then learn from those experiences in life, it becomes a Jubilee year. It changes the way that we imagine the world. How might I be a pilgrim of hope this year is by making a decision to forgive others who've hurt us because it's just time to let it go. Ultimately, forgiveness is a selfish act. Ultimately, it releases me. If we have so much psychic energy and only so much energy for compassion, but 20% of my energy is just sucked up in all the harboring all the hurts and pains and who did me wrong and who got wrong and who, I lose 20% of my capacity to love. And again, one of the things I've learned deeply in these last few years at the hospital is that end of life is not the time to figure that out. The time to figure it out is while you still have life left. And forgiveness doesn't mean running through the poppy fields and hugging the person who's done you wrong across the fields. In fact, sometimes it means never having any contact with that person again. But it means to decide that the power that they have over us, that I claim Jubilee, that they no longer can own me. They can no longer occupy my thoughts. Thich Nhat Hanh, the Buddhist the spiritual leader, has had a great influence in my life. And one of his images is that we let people live in the house of our mind, in our living room, and we let them sit in our recliners and we let them they get to decide what channels we watch on the television of our mind. And sometimes we just need to tell those people they can't be there anymore. In 12-step programs, they say about not letting anybody live rent-free in your head. It's the same thing. So to make a decision in this Jubilee year to forgive others who's hurt us because it's just time to let it go, not because it's okay, not because it wasn't real, not because the hurt and the anger isn't justified, but because it's sucking up life that I want to give to the world in another kind of way. And number 5, How might I be a pilgrim of hope this year? By making a decision to forgive myself, to forgive ourselves for being less than we were created to be, because we've all been less than we were created to be. God looked at us and said, it is good. It is so good. And we need to do it because it's time to move forward. It's time to be all that we can be. It's time to move in the direction of love. That to be a pilgrim of hope means to move in the direction of. It doesn't mean you've arrived. It means you're moving in the direction of. So how might I be a pilgrim of hope this year? By listening deeply to others, not to fix them, but to hear them, even when it's hard. By being present to myself, to each other, to the community, by showing up, by following up, by being persistently present, by being willing to learn from those whose experiences in life are different from ours, different in age and experience, in race and sexual orientation, in language and culture, in economic status, in spiritual practices, in social class, in legal status. By making a decision to forgive others who've hurt us because it's time to let it go. By making a decision to forgive ourselves for being less than we were created to be, because it's time to move forward. It's really the core of humility, is to say, I'm doing the best I can do. I did the best I could do. Or I didn't even do the best I could do, but it's all I had at the moment. So pilgrims always know where they're headed, but they're often surprised by what they learn on the journey there. And I invite you then to choose to be a pilgrim of hope. A pilgrimage always has days where it rains and days where your feet are hurting and days where you don't cover as much territory as you do another day. But if we can learn on the journey, then we have the possibility of being a pilgrim of hope. The last thing in this logo here, the official logo of the Jubilee Year, is that it's anchored. It was a very intentional use for Pope Francis of the anchor. And the anchor of a boat doesn't keep the boat from moving. It doesn't keep the boat from shifting. It keeps it from getting caught up and moving out. And so I think anchored in hope, anchored in faith, hope is the theological virtue between faith and love. And it's a theological virtue because God gives it to us. We can't earn it. It's not a feeling, but it's a choice to accept the gift. It's a choice to accept the gift. So I look forward to the conversations that you might have with each other as you move into small groups.
It now falls to me to send you all to those groups. It'll be simply 20-minute in-depth conversation. Looking forward to the results of that as we come back into our large group. Thank you. Hey! So glad to see. Oh my, I just such a joy to be in it together with you all.
Yes, indeed.
What grace-filled conversations. So grateful that we can all be together. Oh my. What a gift it is to see you all. I've said before, it's my favorite part to watch people pop back in. You know, it's such a beautiful thing. Oh my. So good to see. As you all know, the way it works is that within 60 seconds, people will be back in this space, like it or not, after I click that little amazing button. Here they come. Ba, 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 ba.
Okay, we have about 15 or so minutes for people to maybe harvest whatever was in the small groups that you would like to share with a larger group, and just unmute yourself and we'll go from there.
Hi, my name's Ann Garasco. I'm going to share for Patrick Parham and myself. He is a spiritual director, and I've been a chaplain for a long time. And we both related very much to the listening deeply, because that's the core of what we both do. I'm speaking for myself, and I think Patrick also. It's the idea of doing a reset. It's a wonderful idea. His birthday is January 1st, mine is January 26th, and it's like a new year for us as far as our ages are also. Just the trying to have an art. I'm thinking and trying. It's hard to say what I'm thinking. I just appreciate all the different points that Mary brought up, and also we were talking more about reaching out, and it's easy for us to be concerned about ourselves and what's going on with ourselves, and the need to reach out to others and to be there for other people, and also to be aware of their perspective. I guess that's all I have right now. Maybe if I missed something, he could chime in.
All right, thank you. Some other group, someone care to share? Okay, I'm gonna volunteer Marlene from our group, because she had a really group insights. Marlene, would you share?
I'll share a little something. Ian and I had a lovely conversation, and I think we talked about the elusiveness of hope and how easily true hope can just slip through our fingers. And even as we're called to be agents of grace and bringing hope to the world, the hope of the Lord and the hope for renewal and the hope for a fresh start, a restart, it's easy to let that go if we've lost hope ourselves. So we talked a little bit about how important it is, how Mary talked about being present to ourselves, not just present to others, but I like the phrase fully present, really being fully present to others and fully present to ourselves and fully present to the Lord, that He is the only one who can renew our hope. And so taking some time in the quiet and in silence and really listening, again, not just to others, but listening to others, very important, but listening to what is happening within our own soul, listening to the voice of the Spirit within us. And so we had a really lovely conversation that was lovely and lively. If Ian would like to contribute something, I'm sure you have something. I'll leave myself on mute.
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that one of the things that struck me that we talked about too was Mary talked about the sense of jubilee of forgiving ourselves, of being true to ourselves, and true to the fact that each and every one of us is created so good, and to value that. Oftentimes I hear myself, or I know myself in my head. I can assent to that theological teaching, but the journey from the head to the heart sometimes can take a very windy and challenging road. And if it's true for me, I think it's true for so many people as well, right? And how do we, as ministers of hope, accompany others in that journey from head to heart, right? In so many ways that are challenging, and always holding forward that vision of hope that does not disappoint, right? And then I think that sometimes is the challenge to walk that journey. Which I think for the Jubilee has that sense, right, of journey, of hope, of anchor. And the waves sometimes are quite dangerous, and sometimes the waves are very calming. But the anchor of hope holds in both.
Thank you. Another group, is someone care to share with?
Hi, it's Barbara. And I was in a group with Mary and Cynthia, and we all had our different views of hope, but they were all perfectly matching. And I had said, hope is a decision we can make to have hope. And then Mary said, she keeps that in her mind as well. And then she said, but I'm not optimistic always. It's hope, there's two different meanings of hope. And then Cynthia shared with us that was her word for the year coming up, hope. So we kind of delved into that and listening and paying attention. And what else did we talk about? I can't remember.
Thanks, Barbara.
Walter Brueggemann makes the point that hope is not optimism.
Right.
And I think we get them confused.
Right.
We think it's positivity and being optimistic, and hope is not. I'm not optimistic at the moment, but I'm deeply hopeful. Those are two very different things, right? I believe there's a bigger plan. I believe in a wider story, but that's very different than feeling optimistic.
Yes.
Thanks, Barbara, Mary. Someone else? We have about 5 or 7 more minutes.
I'll go. I'm in the group with Katie and Carmen, and one of the things that we said is kind of looking at our social location today, who we are today. Most of us in our group are, self-identified as quote senior citizens, and seeing God or being, in a very different way than we might have at 40 or 20 or as a teenager, and that's relevant for us to do. And we also talked about the idea of when we engage with other people, to really kind of not feel like we need to have the answer or to give advice, even if they ask us for that, to try to reframe the moment and empower them to find the solution or the answer. And even just to work with a sense of humility and grace. We didn't use this word, but what came to mind in our conversation was that, that God is actionable. It's an actionable thing. It's not just something passively that we do at home, although we may do it that way. One of our members mentioned that they have a very strong relationship every day with God and see God as almost like their father and talk to them in that way. So that's one way of looking at it. And the other way is when we go out into the world and seeing God in the faces of those we encounter, especially when being open to cultural diversity in all of its various forms, are things that we can do to make this a living moment. And we agreed that we all have a short shelf life and to make each moment count.
Okay, thank you.
So I was in a group with Kathy and Jane, and we just picked up on so many good points that Mary had made. But one of my stumbling blocks is not fixing things that Mary has said, you got to fix them. I work with the homeless, I teach with the refugees and things. And well, they look at you with this great sign of hope, like you're going to do something for them. And it's really hard to just listen, try to come back and have them solve their problems. And so that was one of the areas we talked a lot about forgiveness too, for ourselves and for others. And I think that's another area that is really hard for ourselves and also the people we work with. Some of the people come with such deep problems in the past where they haven't really been brought up in families that have been supportive, that have taught them how to forgive, how to love. Mother's been in jail and father's on drugs, and this child is there, and at what point does someone interfere in that life and intervene to help them learn what love is? Difficult. But thanks, Jane and Kathy. What else did we say?
Good. Thanks, Ann.
Yeah.
Joe, I'm unmuted now.
I'm sorry about that.
I'll share real
I put you on
quick.
the spot.
No, it's fine. I have a new version of Zoom, so I had to tap around.
Okay.
I just wanted to say, we talked about hope as a theological virtue, and that if we're pilgrims, and I talked about how I've, bounced around for years trying to find the right thing, the right job in the right place and all of that. and that kind of a physical pilgrimage. But if hope is a gift that we're given, it's something that we can take with us. And what I've been trying to do or want to do is to show up as hope along the way, like everywhere I'm going, because we know we can't always just conjure it up. It's something that that comes as a gift, and that we can give as a gift. We're the face of hope sometimes for other people. So
Thanks, Marlene.
mhm.
Someone else would care to share? In our group, Elizabeth and Marlene, I was with them. The word pilgrim, someone mentioned, what if we called the migrants pilgrims rather than migrants, with the idea that people are on a journey as a pilgrim, and we're all on a pilgrimage, and we're all on the journey like together. We're just at different parts of the road. And then Elizabeth mentioned about the anchor in the sea. Why an anchor in the water? Is it hope that centers us? What is it that we carry along on the pilgrimage, that all the motions? And it was very, very, very rich. I don't know if Elizabeth, if you want to add to that as we wrap up here.
No, I think you summed it up. I think Marlene was amazing. So was Joe. I think and of course, Mary. I think amazing, Mary. I don't think any of us will forget about this year with those 5 principles that are going to anchor us better in the sea of life.
And the doctor who's a drummer also, right? We're at the point where we want to thank you for showing up. We know that everyone has other, obviously, obligations or things, but this is like our 9th SETI virtual network. We started last January. And as Brian said, we're just trying to open up a space for all of us to kind of maybe show up at times we can, sometimes we can't, but to engage with each other and to kind of practice together along the journey and help each other in our locale. As Brian said, we're all in different places doing different things. So really appreciate you all taking the time. And we asked Mary if you have any final thoughts, Mary, reflections, or if you feel you would like to offer a spontaneous concluding prayer.
Yeah, I have a quick prayer I want to offer, and I encourage you to, what if each of us in our own spheres of influence reminded people they can be 2 things at the same time. They can be a doctor and a drummer in whatever 2 things they need to be. The world would be different tomorrow if that's all we did. A young person, an older person who thinks they're done and their talents aren't really welcomed anymore, or a younger person who doesn't know which way to turn, or someone in midlife that's not sure if they should go left or they should go right. Just those being that sign of hope can really change. And that's Jubilee, that's reset, because then it makes us different too. So I end with a prayer from Joyce Rupp that she wrote about praying and looking for hope. So a prayer to be anchored in hope. Source of my inmost confidence, I desire to anchor my heart in courage, confidence, and positivity, all gifts generated through your grace. When the days spill over with way too much to absorb, remind me to frequently pause to notice where kindness touches my life and for opportunities to extend that kindness. When strong emotions drift into my peace and attempt to defeat what generates joy, turn my attention toward the kinship I have with millions of people who've made it through what threatened to destroy their spirit of hope. If there appears to be little I can do to alleviate injustice and the horrific crimes committed against humanity, with your assistance, I'll continue to do what I can to bring about good, no matter how minor it may seem. Resiliency of my spirit, you are abiding within me, strengthening my waning hope, and kindling my being with your radiant love and radiant light and unwavering love. I reach out again for the gift of hope. May this precious virtue be re-anchored in my heart. Amen.
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 Brian, do you have any final words?
Thanks to you all. Looking forward to seeing you again soon. We'll be sending out invitations. I particularly would like to thank those of you who are joining us for the first time, as well as for all of our board members, but most particularly to each and every person who was moved in any way by this conversation. May we carry it on into this reset as pilgrims, moving hope in our lives and in all those we touch. Thank you so much.
Amen.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Brian. Good night.
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you, Mary.
Thanks, Mary.
Good
Thank
night.
you. Goodbye,
Brian.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
Good to
you.
be here.
Cynthia.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
everyone.
Have a good
Bye
night.
bye.
Thank
Thank you all. In it together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Thanks, Brian. Bye.
Together. Bye bye. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. What a joy to see you all. What a gift. Thank you so much. Pure grace.